covering the world of professional wrestling. This is the Signature Spot with Chris Toplack.
3, 2, 1.
Thank you very much for tuning in to the latest episode of the Signature Spot with Chris Toplack. As always, I greatly appreciate your ongoing support. New episodes available every single Thursday. YouTube.com/The Signature Spot. Subscribe there. Visit lordsofpain.net or thegorillaposition.com to get your fix. Also available on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Spreaker, and podcast apps such as Overcast. Woke up on Wednesday morning to some pretty big news at a New Japan Pro Wrestling. Jon Moxley defeated Juice Robinson to become the promotion's new United States champion. Who saw that coming? This easily makes my list for top 10 best matches of the year so far. If it's not in your top 10, I would hope it's a candidate. It was certainly more of a brawl than a match, though. Very memorable spots throughout. Moxley even debuted a new move dubbed the Death Rider, an elevated version of Dirty Deeds, and it looks very, very effective. He was even sporting more traditional gear that almost resembled something worn in MMA. Jon Moxley knows how to generate buzz. To reiterate, there is no official partnership between AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Moxley is free to take bookings elsewhere until weekly television commences in the fall. On the program today, a full NXT TakeOver 25 recap, highlights from Raw and Smackdown and NXT. Plus, I'm joined by Ryan Boman as we provide you with a full preview of Super Showdown.
Your weekly recap.
As I noted last week, Death Taxes, a memorable TakeOver event. As fully anticipated, the event met and exceeded high expectations. In fact, the majority of the 25 events fall into that category. Tommaso Ciampa kicked off the pre-show panel, hopped onto the table. He proclaimed, "This is still my house." Paige was somewhere saying, "That's my line," while patting himself on the back. He mentioned that he will be keeping his eye on Goldie during the main event. So the show kicked off with Matt Riddle versus Roderick Strong, and ooh, what a great choice that was. Riddle got his arm raised following the Cradle Tombstone for the pinfall victory. It's remarkable to me that Matt Riddle competed at welterweight. That is 170 pounds throughout the vast majority of his MMA career, since he currently walks around at about 225. It's a lot of weight, a lot of muscle he's put on. And this was undoubtedly Roderick Strong's career-defining performance as part of NXT. Since the days of ROH, Strong has really elevated anyone he's been in the ring with. He did that here as well. Along with this match, and also against Velveteen Dream, it was Riddle's strongest NXT showing. Many have stated this in the past, and I've said it before as well too. Matt Riddle is bound to become a big star and a torchbearer for NXT. They certainly cut an incredible pace to kick off the show, and it was my runner-up for Match of the Night. For the vacant NXT Tag Team Championship, it was the Undisputed Era versus the Street Profits versus the Forgotten Sons versus Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. This match was completely chaotic from start to finish. Everyone put their bodies on the line in an effort to claim the vacant titles. The punishment Kyle O'Reilly took throughout the entire match was flat out ridiculous. He landed awkwardly on the ladder. He was powerbombed onto the ladder, and then also following a German suplex spot, he nearly ate all of a flying ladder. In my opinion, Kyle O'Reilly and Montez Ford were the true MVPs in this match. Dawkins landed a great spear under the ladder, and Ford leaped in out of nowhere to springboard and climb up the ladder to pull down the titles. A very entertaining match with a solid conclusion, a near 7-year journey for Angelo Dawkins, as he has spent nearly that entire time within the NXT system and gone through multiple partners. He made his NXT debut way back on June 19th, 2012. As for Montez Ford, he's arguably the best pure athlete on the roster. Next up, the Velveteen Dream versus Tyler Breeze. It all comes full circle. Tyler Breeze competed on the very first NXT TakeOver event 5 years ago. I'm so happy he's back on the NXT brand full time, as his talent was completely wasted on the main roster. He was barely utilized, especially after Fandango got injured. This match accomplished two things. Once again, confirmed the fact that Velveteen Dream is a long-term future star, and it also served as a reminder as to how good Tyler Breeze is as a performer. A great match with the Velveteen Dream retaining following the Rainmaker elbow. The near falls were believable and both put a lot of effort into selling offensive maneuvers. Plus, I like the selfie at the end of the match as well, too. For the NXT Women's Championship, Shayna Baszler versus Io Shirai. Io Shirai, in my opinion, still has the best moonsault in the business today. Candice LeRae made an appearance. She took out both Shafir and Duke with a kendo stick to even the odds. And while attempting to go for an elevated pin, Io Shirai openly gave up her neck and back, which is a huge no-no, because Shayna Baszler is a submission specialist. And of course, it proved to be a costly mistake, as the genius of the sky passed out. Shayna retained. Then Io uncharacteristically snapped and attacked Shayna with a kendo stick. It was brutal. And while holding a chair, proceeded to land a flawless moonsault onto Shayna Baszler. I love this aggressive side to Io Shirai. It was announced that NXT UK TakeOver is set to take place on August 31st. By the way, also taking place on August 31st is AEW's All Out from Chicago. Stephanie McMahon was shown on screen and received some boos. Say what you will about her, but at least she shows up to support the brand. If you looked at the bottom left corner of your screen, you would have noticed Adam Cole's girlfriend, Dr. Britt Baker from AEW, giving Stephanie McMahon the stink eye. And in the main event for the NXT Championship, Johnny Gargano defended his championship against Adam Cole. It was Johnny Gargano's record 14th TakeOver event. Josiah Williams joined Adam Cole and performed his entrance. He was recently hired by NXT after they discovered his Wrestle or Flow social media accounts. I've been following him for a couple of months. Very, very talented. So I'm glad they brought him in. Following the Panama Surprise and the Last Shot, Adam Cole, baby, was crowned the new NXT champion. Plenty of emotion and near falls led up to this moment. It took everything but the kitchen sink for Cole to put Gargano away. This sets up a big trilogy bout between Cole and Gargano. And to advance the story, this was the right outcome. Easily match of the night. My overall rating between an 8.5 and 9 out of 10. With Double or Nothing and NXT TakeOver 25, we were truly spoiled as fans of pro wrestling over the span of a week. Two incredible events. In terms of consistency, there's nothing in the industry that matches the greatness of NXT TakeOver events. So we go from that incredibly memorable event to Raw, and I never know what to expect on a weekly basis. Roman Reigns opened Monday Night Raw, but was quickly interrupted by Shane McMahon. McIntyre started to make his way down to the ring, and a distracted Reigns was attacked by the Revival. Hey, at least they're being utilized. The Usos made the save, and this led to a 6-man tag team match. Drew McIntyre earned the victory for the team after landing the Claymore kick on Jey Uso. Following the match, Reigns ate a shatter machine, Claymore kick, and spear from Shane McMahon. Lance Armstrong, one of the most notorious dopers in sports history, and Matthew McConaughey. I'm just looking forward to a great show, man. I mean, all right. Both appeared on Raw. Seth Rollins joined The Miz for Miz TV, which mostly focused on the lingering threat of Brock Lesnar cashing in. Right on cue, Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman arrived at the arena with a briefcase in hand. The Beast Incarnate was directed to cash in this evening. Instead, he went straight to the locker room. The Iconics showed up to poke fun at Nikki Cross's height. Alexa Bliss showed up to defend Cross. Did we just become best friends? Yep, I think so. The man Becky Lynch made an appearance. Lacey Evans made her presence felt. Clearly, one of the writers is a fan of The Dark Knight. As Lacey noted, Becky, you're a dog chasing a car. You wouldn't know what to do with one if you caught it. The Joker said that. I'm like a dog chasing a car. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. Go back and watch it is the exact line. Charlotte showed up, asked for someone to hold the rope for her. No one obliged. Then noted she's halfway to beating Ric Flair's 16 World Championship reign. That is a fact. Lacey then attacked Charlotte, which naturally led to a match since they were both in ring gear as well. Yes, that was a bit telegraphed. I'm all in favor of a heel versus heel match, but these two shared very little chemistry together. Due to a separated shoulder, Rey Mysterio relinquished the United States Championship and placed it on the map for Samoa Joe. Joe locked in the coquina clutch as Rey attempted to exit the ring. Ruthless. Next up, an arm wrestling contest, you can't make this up, between Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley. You can just picture Vince McMahon loving this. Look at their arms. Ah, yes, the crowd's gonna love this. Bobby Lashley lost, but through chalk in Braun's face, it managed to body slam him. Nikki Cross squared off against Peyton Royce. Alexa Bliss had coffee delivered, but Peyton kicked it over and Billy proceeded to knock Bliss onto the spilled coffee. Bliss, this is why I never wear white. Cross won. Bliss exacted her revenge on the Iconics. The odd pairing is paying off. Seth Rollins waited in the ring for Brock Lesnar to cash in. Lesnar's music hit, but no beast. Rollins got frustrated by the mind games and suddenly an Olive Garden employee, just Braun Strowman, showed up to beat the champ down. Lesnar finally showed up with a referee and a steel chair in hand. Brock low-blowed Rollins. He proceeded to assault him with a chair and then landed several suplexes, followed by a vicious F5 outside of the ring. Although with that padding, it actually seems like it would be more pleasant than inside the ring. As the assault continued, Heyman urged Brock to cash in. He did not listen. He responded with Friday. So this means perhaps it will transpire this Friday at Super Showdown. Ryan and I will chat about that very shortly. Then Firefly Funhouse, consistently the best part of Raw on a weekly basis. We were treated to a very special episode. Huskus the Pig, along with an evil puppet McMahon, made appearances. Bray Wyatt in phenomenal shape. Pull up your pants and do the Muscle Man dance. If you missed it, go watch it on YouTube. I know what you're thinking, Chris, this is so ridiculous, but I promise you the payoff will be totally worth it. And for what it's worth, I found it very entertaining. Triple H and Randy Orton met in the ring to exchange a promo. They obviously share a long history, so what else can be said? Randy Orton asked Triple H if he could retrieve his balls from Stephanie's purse. Triple H joked about how big his balls were and how Randy wouldn't know since he doesn't have any. Yes, that's all you really need to know. WWE has actually provided us with Ricochet and Cesaro on a weekly basis. I can wholeheartedly get behind this decision. Yet another great performance in an entirely different match from the previous two. Ricochet won with an elevated package pin. Following the match, Cesaro attempted to pull out a table from under the ring, but hilariously, R-Truth was attached to it. When you have the most inventive spot in hide and seek, but still get discovered. That's how I would summarize that exact moment. R-Truth narrowly escaped with his championship in hand. The Undertaker closed the show and received a very positive reaction, but his promo was cut drastically short due to obvious time restraints, a definite production goof. He asked for the unstoppable, mythical icon Goldberg and not the family man who just wants to make his family smile at ringside. Taker further noted that Goldberg, you're next. 3 hours, only 4 matches. Overall, this was a very disappointing episode that ultimately fell flat. Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods made their way to ringside. They were quickly interrupted by Dolph Ziggler. Kofi is celebrated as a hero. Dolph resents it. A straightforward, yet highly effective storyline focused solely on jealousy. New Day versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens was on tap, with Kofi Kingston landing Trouble in Paradise on Sami Zayn for the victory. I'm surprised Alexa Bliss kept a straight face when praising Raw as the far superior brand over SmackDown. Bliss was on SmackDown to host a Moment of Bliss featuring Bayley. Alexa spent more time demanding coffee than actually interviewing the SmackDown Women's Champion. Elias also once again went electric. What a treat for those in attendance. He was scheduled to face R-Truth for the 24/7 championship. As roughly a dozen wrestlers stood at ringside, Elias quickly won to become a 2-time champion. Everyone ran into the ring, brawled while Elias narrowly escaped. R-Truth managed to regain his championship after pinning Elias under the ring. Yes, You heard that correctly. Shane McMahon made his entrance with the Revival by his side. He asked for them to leave, and for the second night in a row, Roman Reigns was left lying on the mat with a little help from Shane McMahon's friends. In this case, it was yet again Drew McIntyre. Alexa Bliss pinned Carmella with the DDT after interference from Fire and Desire. So she will be taking on Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. On the plus side, at least, Charlotte isn't immediately competing for the SmackDown Women's Championship again. It was only a matter of time before Raw superstars could compete for SmackDown championships and vice versa. With the wild card rule, there really are no rules. Kayla Braxton conducted an incredibly awkward interview with Lars Sullivan that was overly scripted and robotic. He asked questions such as, would you ever ask a lion how they stalk their prey? Sorry, I don't speak lion. Byron Saxton used the words nightmare fuel to describe Lars. That's how I feel about that entire segment. It was very polarizing. Some loved it, some hated it. I just thought it was very disjointed. Andrade hit Apollo Crews with the hammerlock DDT before the bell even officially rang. This prompted Finn Balor to run down for the save, but he too was hit with the hammerlock DDT after Selena Vega got involved. Goldberg's entrance without the pyro is completely underwhelming, but his promo served its purpose with a promise that The Undertaker will get the ass-kicking machine this coming Friday at Super Showdown. The lights went on, lights went off, the sound of a familiar gong hit. The Undertaker appeared in the ring. Goldberg did not flinch. Lights went off, back on. Taker quickly disappeared. It's a throwback, and I personally enjoyed it to conclude the show. While SmackDown was a slight improvement over Raw, it consisted of 3 matches within a span of 2 hours. If you're keeping track, that's a total of 7 matches in 5 hours worth of television. Up next, I'm joined by the editor and chief of the GorillaPosition.com, Ryan Boman, as we provide you with a full preview of the controversial Super Showdown.
Our topic of the week.
WWE Super Showdown 2019 takes place this coming Friday, June the 7th from the King Abdullah International Stadium in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The show will begin at 2 p.m. In the East, you may be working, but of course you can catch the replay on the WWE Network. Understandably, we're going to make some lighthearted jokes throughout our predictions. As a quick reminder, no women are featured on the card, but there are rumors a women's match may actually occur. Natty, Renee, who will be commentating, I believe, and Alexa Bliss are making their way over to Jeddah. So I'll believe it when I see it, but this will be a step in the right direction. And of course, the Prince is essentially a spoiled rich kid who pays WWE a preposterous amount of money to handpick an entire card while the first couple of rows sit on couches, barely make a peep. But a major plus, entrances should hopefully feature pyro yet again. And while this event has been advertised as equal to or better than WrestleMania, the end result of this Super Showdown show will hopefully be better than the glorified house show in a stadium venue we have been accustomed to. Ryan Boman joins me. I know that there has been a lukewarm response to this card, but there are some decent matches on this card. I really enjoy it.
Chris, it's going to be a Friday, and it's a Saudi house party. It's a pajama jammy jam, the sequel, baby. We're back in the progressive city of Jeddah.
Yes, where women can now drive cars. I remember where I saw that propaganda video, and that was their bragging right, and I thought, you got to try harder than that.
Yeah, and people can eat meat on Fridays, and somewhere you can go without getting cut into pieces.
We're going down that avenue.
I brought my bone saw for this one, buddy. I brought my bone saw.
Yeah, I know you did.
I agree with you, though. I think that the card itself might not be that bad, even though, despite the protests of some for where the card's taking place, I do think we've got some matches that are worth talking about.
Exactly. I think for the record, I still question why it's taking place there. But again, money speaks volumes. C'est la vie, right? So again, let's move ahead to some of the matches featured on the card. Kicking it off, I believe at least, Lucha House Party. That's right. It's a 3-on-1 handicap match. Grand Metalik, Lince Dorado, and Kalisto taking on The Freak, Lars Sullivan. Obviously, this match was designed for Lars to just decimate all three of these men here.
Yeah, hopefully Lars has a better showing than he did during that promo on SmackDown this week, where he absolutely crapped the bed. I think I described it on more than one forum as flaccid.
Do you ask a lion how to stalk their prey? No, I don't speak lion, Lars. I'm sorry.
No, I think in this case, what we'll see is more of the usual. I mean, it's another attempt to get Lars over as this big, unstoppable monster. But I think at this point, what we've seen is he's rather exposed. I don't think it really matters how things come out. Going forward for him, I don't see a bright future. But I would pick him to win the match in Saudi Arabia.
Next up is the 50-man Battle Royal, the largest of its kind. There haven't even been any names formally announced, and I think it's because they're going to be pulling from all over. With 50 spots available, you can expect Raw and Smackdown superstars, legends, members of 205 Live, NXT stars, so many different possibilities. Who do you think has the best shot of winning this? I believe it's going to be a well-established name.
I do too, but for some reason, because of the Saudi Arabian shows and for the fact that this Battle Royal is essentially meaningless in terms of the card, the Saudi Arabian prince has this knack for wanting to bring back old legendary names. I just have a feeling it's going to be some wild card, some random legend from the past that shows up and wins this Battle Royal just on the whims of the prince.
Let's see if the prince has his finger on the pulse. Tom McGee, I'm kidding. I can't even say that with a straight face.
Didn't he request Yokozuna before finding out that Yokozuna had passed away? So maybe the ghost of Yokozuna will win this Battle Royal.
Wow. I thought that it would be AJ Styles, but apparently he's currently out of action with a back issue. He would be a logical choice just because he's well established, internationally well known and respected. But you're right, is probably going to be a legend. I don't even have a choice. This is the rare time. I don't even want to go out on a limb and make a prediction here.
Let me put it this way. If late in the match you hear the first chords of Real American play and Hogan comes in and clears house, don't be surprised because there's enough money that this thing could get done that way.
As he hobbles to the ring after his 20th
he doesn't have to do much
hip replacement.
Just throw guys over the top rope.
I used to wonder if it's like a stamp card for a sub. With all of those hip replacements and back surgeries he's had, that you could think, so I get one free now. Wow.
I think if he does get a free hip replacement, probably Linda got it in the divorce.
Ooh.
That's pending.
Roman Reigns versus the best in the world, Shane McMahon. He returns to the country where his best in the world moniker was bestowed upon him. No, it's not CM Punk. No, it's not Chris Jericho. It is the boss's son, Shane McMahon. He squares off against a very motivated Roman Reigns who has recently been outnumbered and embarrassed. You know that Shane will probably have Drew or Elias or even the Revival on his side. Who takes this one, Ryan?
Well, it's a tough call. The only prediction I feel safe in saying is that Shane McMahon will perspire enough to cause an oasis in the desert of Saudi Arabia somewhere. He is the sweatiest man in wrestling next to Bobby Lashley.
He is a slip and slide, isn't he? Like, do you remember Crocodile Mile, what that was? That's Shane McMahon.
I mean, literally the beads of perspiration on the man's head just walking down the ramp are almost alarming at his age. Having said that, I think you got to give Rome. I mean, you cannot let Shane. At this point, the fans have really turned on Shane, and it's not the good kind of heat. If he beats Roman somehow in Saudi Arabia on this card, it's going to look even worse. I think you've got to let Roman get this win.
Even for those that adamantly dislike Roman Reigns, in this case, even they have to be saying, you know, enough is enough. You speared him back-to-back nights on Raw and SmackDown. You don't even belong in the ring with Roman Reigns. Roman better get his arm raised. That's my prediction as well.
Right. I think if there's one way you want to get people to cheer for Roman Reigns, I've got one word for you, Shane.
Braun Strowman versus the other sweatiest man, Bobby Lashley, one-on-one. Braun Strowman is virtually unbeatable, so unless Drew McIntyre gets involved, Lashley's odds of picking up the W seem slim to none in my eyes.
Yeah, it's like the battle of the forgotten men. These were two guys that had a ton of heat. Lashley, when he first got there, we thought he was on a collision course to maybe face Lesnar.
Yeah.
Now that's as far in a different area code as you could possibly get. And Strowman is a guy that 2 or 3 bad promos and a couple bad matches later, he's in kind of a meaningless match against another guy that they kind of followed the same path. They fizzled out. I don't think it really matters who wins in this match. The fans lose because both of these guys, this should be a much more high profile match than it is. And I'll take Strowman just because I think the company still believes there's life in him.
Yeah, they'll still bank on him for sure. It's really unfortunate because the potential of both of those men really limitless in so many different ways. Bobby Lashley would do so well with a manager who could speak for him that's not going to garner as much heat as Leo Rush. And as for Braun Strowman, just organically let him go. Let him do his thing. Eventually put him over the hump and let him be a world champion too.
And it's terrible because Bobby Lashley may be one of the great athletes that will end up, in the grand scheme of things, being wasted in professional wrestling. He's, even with his great run and Impact, the clock is ticking on this guy. He's getting older now. He's not
about 42, something like that. Yeah,
he's not going to have those years left where he's in prime shape. And it would be nice to get to see him have that big run on top one time where he's undisputedly the top guy in one company. And I just don't think that we've ever gotten that out of him. And that's a shame because, as you said, he is a terrific athlete, a guy that had so much potential at one time.
I think unless you pair him with somebody like a Paul Heyman, who is just now completely synonymous with Brock Lesnar, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley is honestly the modern-day Tom McGee. Great athlete, but can't talk, has no personality whatsoever. A great guy in real life, but just it doesn't translate on camera.
No, it doesn't. He's definitely missing that it factor when it comes to charisma. He's got the look. He looks like $1 million and he can wrestle, but you're right, just not a lick of charisma in him. For the WWE Intercontinental Championship, on paper, this match looks outstanding. It's Finn Balor defending against Andrade. I guess it's TBD. Probably not likely that Selena Vega will be by his side, but either way, these two going head-to-head is going to be great. And guess what? It's going to be very telling. Apparently, we are going to see the Demon, Finn Balor, and that should essentially tell you everything you need to know about the outcome because his track record is near flawless.
Yeah, Andrade is another guy that I'm not a huge fan, but I heard the company was high on him when he first came up, and now it seems like he's going to be relegated to the middle card. I think, again, you have to deal with where they're at and the fact that this is as much of a show as it is a wrestling card. I don't believe they're going to do the entire exhibition of the Demon coming out and then disappointing the crowd by letting the Demon lose. So I think Finn Balor easily goes over in this match.
The human action figure, Finn Balor, as the Major Brothers would call him, very toyetic. I think he is going to retain. For the WWE Universal Championship, it is Seth Rollins defending against Baron Corbin. Now, this really kind of poses a couple different questions here surrounding the match. Will Seth Rollins be healthy enough to compete after Brock's brutal attack on Monday? And also, how will Brock Lesnar be involved?
I heard a nightmare scenario, and I'm going to throw this at you, Chris, that at some point, because they don't want to lose the potential Seth versus Brock one-on-one matchup, that Brock would interject himself in the match and pin Corbin to win the Universal title.
Oh, come on.
I'm just telling you, this is a thing. I actually think Meltzer threw that theory out, is where I heard it. That would be vomitous if it happens that way, to where Rollins loses the title, Brock cash. So we lose the Money in the Bank, Rollins loses the title, and we don't really get a resolution between the two of them. If that's the outcome, I would be very disappointed. I honestly think that Rollins beats Corbin and Lesnar cashes in and then beats Rollins.
Oh, but you're right. It's a lose-lose situation because the drama of the cash-in is gone. I hate the fact that he already said Friday. It's like the most important aspect of Money in the Bank is you never know when, you never know where, but he's calling his shot. Some would say that's admirable, but that's not even what a heel would do. They need to be opportunistic, right?
Absolutely. Now, he said Friday, the alternative Earth 2 scenario is that he doesn't cash in on Rollins at all, and Friday means I'm cashing in on Kofi.
That is another plausible scenario. I've thought about that one as well, too. Ah, God, I don't even know which one I would prefer if you put a gun to my head.
It makes more sense for him to cash in on Kofi and then pretty much keep away with the belt until they premiere SmackDown in the fall. That's what I was thinking could be the alternate scenario, was possibly Brock would say, well, we all know that he's earmarked probably to be on the Fox show most of the time. So for him to take the title now, maybe work in a defense over the summer and kind of, again, play the waiting game until he pops up on the first episode of SmackDown on Fox. If he cashes in against, no matter who he cashes in on, if he does it on Friday, he's going home with a title belt. We know that.
Yeah, definitely. He's not going to show up empty-handed when he gets back home to his dairy farm. So going to this match next, I guess we already kind of led into it. It was for the WWE Championship. I don't even want to use past tense here, but either way, it's Kofi Kingston, the champion, who's done a very admirable job, by the way, taking on Dolph Ziggler. Now, the basis of this feud has been fueled on jealousy, and I like it because it is refreshingly straightforward. Dolph Ziggler has basically said, you're the hero, and it should be me. And I love that. He's witnessed the success that Kofi has achieved, and he believes it should be him. Simple and effective.
It's amazing how Ziggler just, because of his talent and the fact that he can get a good match out of anybody, he'll always find himself somehow on a pay-per-view main event. He'll always find himself in the mix because they know they can count on that guy. That's one thing that you've got to give the guy credit for. Maybe underrated as a worker in the ring during his time in WWE. But at the same time, a guy that you just have to tip your cap to, that he can come back and reinvent himself every time because you know you're going to get a good match out of him. Having said that, I think that he's going to lose to Kofi. I don't think either challenger is going to beat the champ, but I think at the end of the night, one of the champs is going to lose their title to Lesnar.
Triple H versus Randy Orton. The history between these two goes all the way back to the very beginning of Evolution. Of course, Triple H was grooming Randy Orton as the future, as you know, and it actually took place in my hometown, Ryan. He gave the old thumbs down. Batista dropped him right on his back, right on his head, and Randy Orton was effectively out of Evolution. Now they add another chapter to their amazing legacy together.
I've had the great opportunity to watch Randy Orton start all the way to this point. I think in a lot of ways because he came through an era where there were such big stars like Cena and Triple H and others, that he'll always be a little underrated. I think Randy Orton's one of the great performers of his era, at least, maybe the best in-ring performer of his era when you combine size, power, and his wrestling ability. And I honestly think Triple H's days of going over everybody are over. I think he's going to pick and choose his spots where he does the job. I think Randy Orton's going to beat Triple H.
Ooh, I like that. You touched on something that I totally agree with. To Randy Orton, he was a natural, and I think in some respects, it was almost too easy. It's like that kid in class that constantly gets A's and they're not challenged. I think for years he was not challenged. It's funny because he probably looks at a company like AEW, and there's rumors he's going to go over there. I adamantly disagree. But at the same time, he probably sees all of this new talent or all of this, the new cream of the crop get called up from NXT and think, I want to work with him, I want to work with him, and I want to work with him because I can actually do something exciting, similar to what he did with AJ Styles, and it was a hell of a match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I've always kind of compared Randy at his best with Barry Windham in his prime in 87, 88, where he had the height and that kind of lanky, ropey build where he could work with anybody. Randy's had that, and he's maintained that. Now, Barry got bigger in his later years, but Randy Orton has always had that 6'4", 6'5", 250, 260 frame that he can work with the little guys, work with the big guys. He's winding down his career at this point, as is Triple H. I think that this is a match where I think Triple H is going to go ahead and give Orton the nod. I don't know. I just have that feeling in my gut.
Wishful thinking. I'm going the other side, Triple H, but I would much rather see Randy Orton. So we go from basically a legendary feud, another chapter being written, to one that has never been written before. It's Goldberg versus The Undertaker, the match everyone wanted 20 years ago, a combined age of 106 years old. There will be a fight over who gets dibs over the ice packs and the cortisone shots first.
I think the greater question is, what's the over-under on the time of this match?
5 minutes or less.
Yeah, we could get Super Bowl odds, I think, on 4 minutes. That's sort of what I'm from bell to bell. We know the entrances are going to be longer than that. At the end of the day, whoever wins this match, I go back to it again. Who does the Saudi prince like the most?
Yeah, that's true. I'm thinking The Undertaker, though, right?
I was thinking maybe Goldberg.
Really?
I'm going to take Goldberg to win this match for some reason, even though I know it's The Undertaker's yard and it's his company and he's the man there. I could see him potentially letting Goldberg have the win. I could see maybe Goldberg getting the nod because he's the newer talent and the Saudi Arabian prince's favorite. Again, I think this card is pretty much just to serve the purposes of propaganda and to make someone in particular happy, and the person who wrote the check happy. So I think Goldberg could possibly win this match against The Undertaker.
Don't disagree with that whatsoever. I mean, the one philosophy, plus at the same time, is can Goldberg even afford to lose? Because this would be 2 in a row for him, right? Because he lost to Brock Lesnar, rode off into the sunset. As for Taker, at this point, he doesn't need a championship. He hasn't needed one in about, a decade. And plus, at the same time, if he loses, so what?
Right. It's really, at this point, the way everyone has described this, at least from WWE's standpoint, is not a lot of this has a lot to do with the storylines or anyone's, I guess, legendary status. Pretty much everybody's going there to get a paycheck.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a checklist where Vince or someone in the office sends it off to the prince. The prince puts the check boxes, sends it back, and they're like, that's our card. That's our winners this coming Friday.
And there's nothing, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, I know the fans probably hate that, but that's the wrestling business. If somebody books you to come in and they pay you gobs and gobs of money, you're going to do what they tell you to do. That's the carnival way. Just it's on a grander scheme now, a grander stage now. And whoever they decide they want to win is who's going to win. And that's why the special shows or the Saudi shows or whatever you want to call them really don't have a lot of bearing. If there's a cash in and a title change there, that would be awesome. But as far as matches involving legends, I don't think there's a lot of people sweating it when they all know they're going to cash a $250,000 check or a $500,000 check at the end of the day. Why would The Undertaker care? He doesn't have anything left to prove.
Money talks, and that's a prime example this coming Friday at Super Showdown. Ryan, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for joining me.
I have to ask you before I go, will you be tuned in to watch the show live from the progressive city of Jeddah?
No, I'll be working, so I will catch it on replay on the award-winning WWE Network for only $9.99 US.
You're listening to The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack.
I was just reading that apparently Goldberg's WWE deal allows him to have full control of his promos. Now, if only everybody on the roster could have that same deal. Hope you enjoyed the latest episode of The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack. As always, I greatly appreciate your ongoing support. If you would be so kind, tell your friends, family, and fellow wrestling fans to like, subscribe, and most importantly, listen to The Signature Spot on a weekly basis. And until next Thursday, happy trails to you until we meet again.
This concludes another episode of The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack. For new episodes, subscribe on YouTube, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes. And don't forget to follow The Signature Spot on Facebook for exclusive clips, polls, and opinions.